This is a HeadGum podcast.
This week's episode of the Jeff Rubin Show is brought to you by Mack Weldon. Mack Weldon makes well-designed and highly engineered underwear, socks, and shirts that just look and feel good. That's because they are made of premium materials, and someone actually put thought into making them nice. Mack Weldon is so confident that you're going to like these better than your current underwear that they've got a no-questions-asked refund policy. So just order a pair, try them for yourself today. Go to MackWeldon.com and enter promo code Jeff Rubin for 20% off. That is MackWeldon.com, promo code Jeff Rubin. And here's the show. Everybody, welcome to the Jeff Rubin Show. Here is what you need to know for today's episode. First thing, there is a Microsoft Office World Championship for students. Second, across all the different competitions, there was only one event won by an American this year, and that was PowerPoint 2013. Third, the winner was Ryan Catalfu, who is here with us on the show today. Hey, Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
Now, Ryan, usually I like to start figuring out who this person is, who you are and where you're from. But for this one, I have to know, before we get into anything else, how does competitive Microsoft Office work? How do they turn it into a game?
It's a little bit hard to explain, but I'll try my best. You start at the school level, or if you're out of school, you would start with Certiport, which is a company that partners with Microsoft to offer industry-recognized certification exams.
So they will, certify you to be like, hey, this guy took a course and he's actually pretty good at Excel now, and then you can take that to employers or whoever and be like, check it out. Here's an official documentation. It's not like a degree, but, just so you know, I'm pretty damn good at Excel.
Yes, exactly. And then when you take those certifications, you're given a score out of 1,000. And when students do exceptionally well on those certification exams, they are typically considered to be one of the best in their state, so they are automatically entered into this competition. So those that do the best in each state are invited to a national competition to compete. On the certification exams, you have to do it typically in North Carolina, which is where I live, with a perfect score with a 1,000 in an extremely fast amount of time.
So what are you being graded on? How do you how do you get points and how do you lose points?
At each level of the competition, it's different, but do you want me to just quickly explain through each of the levels? Or?
Please, yes.
Okay. At the state level, which I always just typically call the school level because I'm in school right now and that's where I test, but it could be at any Certiport authorized test center. There you take the actual certification exams as many times as you need to, and it just asks you kind of questions, to test your knowledge on different aspects of the software, to see how you do with applying transitions or more specific advanced transitions in PowerPoint or animations and things like that.
So they ask you, how would you make this, slide out to the left and then make next slide in from the right? It's
more like, I'll have to kind of come up with a sample question I can give you, but you're actually doing it. It will tell you to adjust, for example, it'll give you a corporate logo, and it will tell you to put that in the upper left corner on all slides built into the Slide Master or something, that's a more advanced feature, so you have to know how to go to do that, and then you actually do it.
Is someone watching you, or does the computer provide a grade?
It automatically scores on the computer.
Okay,
okay. So then there's many steps. It's pretty much you're creating a project is what the best way to explain that is. So you then submit it, and it auto-grades it based on if you completed each of the tasks successfully to get the final project correct. And then the students in each state who did the best, as in with the best score in the fastest amount of time, because you have up to 50 minutes to take the test, is 5-0. But most of the time it's under 10 minutes that these students do it, typically a lot faster than that. then those students get an invitation to go to the national competition.
Is this only for people who are applying for certification, or can anyone sort of enter the competition?
I mean, in theory, anyone can enter the competition, but they'd have to take the certifications to get into it. Like,
Gotcha.
That's the first step, because certifications are the first way to see if you actually know what you're talking about or know what you're doing.
Okay.
It's kind of like, an entry step.
Does it cost any money to take the certification exam?
Depends on where you live. Like in North Carolina, for any students in public high schools here, we have a contract with Microsoft and with Certiport, which is their test delivery partner. So we have unlimited testing for free because that's built into the contract. But for most people, if they do not have a contract, or if a school doesn't have a contract, then they would have to pay like $100 to take the certification exam. You can only enter the competition up till I think 23 or something.
And when you took the certification exam, were you thinking you just wanted to get certified, and then someone entered the room and was like, Ryan, you tested through the roof. We have to send you to a special program. Like two guys, like Men in Black style, come in. Like, you've been selected. We've never seen PowerPoint scores like this. Or did you know that that's what you were getting into?
It's actually really interesting how I got into the certification program to begin with, because it actually started 2 years ago. I competed the year before in Word 2010. In that year, I actually ended up placing second in the world. But that year, it actually
did Word and PowerPoint. You're like the Bo Jackson of Microsoft Office.
Yeah, I've done a different application each year. This year, I'm going to work on trying Excel, hopefully. But anyway, so 2 years ago, it was kind of actually interesting how I got involved in it, because my school, which is Green Hope High School in North Carolina, has always been strong in these competitions since we started offering the program. But 2 years ago when I started, the reason I actually started had to do with a roundabout construction in front of my school.
How did that lead to your Microsoft Office world dominance?
The roundabout construction delayed how long it took to get to school by such a large amount of time, that I had to start getting there earlier. So I ended up meeting a new teacher there who invited me up to her classroom. And then in there, she was one of the teachers who taught the Microsoft classes that kind of prepared students for these certifications. And she always had students compete. So I was up in her room and I had heard about it, which helped me get involved. She kind of encouraged me to get involved in the actual certifications. So I decided to just try one day, and I did really well. I loved it, and I was almost hooked on the certification.
What did you love about it?
It was just kind of fun. Like, I know sports teams and things like that have, kind of like a lot of competition in that sense, but I kind of liked how the individual competition, and it's just something I hadn't done before. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to say why, but
so wait. It sounds like it's more when you're talking about what you loved about it. You're talking about competition and the excitement of it more than your love of, I don't know, Office and transitions and the satisfaction of delivering the perfect PowerPoint presentation. Is that right?
For me, I love technology. I have since I was really little, but I think it's kind of was a mix. It was the blending my love of technology with the competition aspect. So
you took the certification. How did you settle on your individual sport of PowerPoint? I mean, I guess you said it was Word the first year. Like, is that just what you were naturally the best at?
Actually, I think with PowerPoint, I have been strongest over time. With Word, it was actually, I got started later the first year, and that was what was available for me to just try, that I would have, a good chance, because we had people at my school trying in the other applications. And both years, I took the certification many times. I know with PowerPoint 2013, I actually got a perfect score the first time I took it. I just wanted to get it in a faster time so I could become eligible to compete, as North Carolina is a very competitive state, as is, I think, Washington and Florida and a few other states.
Why do you think... Do you have any idea why Washington, North Carolina, and Florida are particularly competitive at Microsoft Office?
North Carolina, it's because the schools start created a contract with Microsoft to do an IT Academy or Imagine Academy program. So they were offering it in the schools for a long time, and they've just been teaching it and refining it and kind of know it. They're stronger in the application. I'm not really sure about the other schools. I'm sure it's a very similar reason. It's hard to say, but I think that it definitely has to do with maybe a few particular teachers and their motivational drive for their students and kind of things like that.
I want to get back to the tournament for a sec, and I am going to put you on the spot a little. You promised me earlier you would try to come up with like a specific task they might give you, and I'm almost more interested. Like PowerPoint, I can imagine because it's graphics, and you were like, yeah, move this thing to the left, and I can imagine the kind of thing. But Word, Microsoft Word, competitive Microsoft Word is not just a typing competition. There's other elements of it.
No, I mean, there are other elements. And
is typing a piece of it, though? Just how fast?
Typing is actually not involved at all, really. Like, I suppose you technically have to type a few things, but I'm not a very fast typer as a whole. But
Ryan, I got to tell you, I find that very hard to believe based on the conversation we've had thus far.
Yeah. But, like, I never actually even took a keyboarding class or anything, but here, I'm going to try to get you a sample, just like not a real question, but just something I can tell you for an idea.
Yeah, just help me visualize it. And if you want to take a second, I can cut it down later or something.
Sure. I have kind of a software that gives like a sample, not actual ones, because I'm not allowed to tell those.
So but the software randomly generates them?
This software that I'm referring to, that just to get a sample for you, it's just software called Geometrics. It's typically designed for preparation for just a regular certification exam, and that, they use similar style questions. What application do you want me to tell you something from?
Let's say PowerPoint.
Sure. Let's just do that. Like this is like a sample question kind of thing, I can tell you.
Okay.
It will start with the presentation, and this one is an actual Geometrics presentation sample, where it will say something like, to change the page setup so the slide has a custom size of 7.5 inches width by 10 inches height, and having a landscape orientation for notes, handouts, and the outline. And then ensure all the contents fit on the new slide. It'll be like something like that. And then you'll have to actually do those items.
How would you do that? What would so if you saw that in a test, what would be going through your mind?
Well, with me, I just kind of have learned how to do most of that stuff. So I would just suddenly, and let's say I didn't know, I would quickly click through the tabs just to kind of see where it seems to fit the most, where it would work the best. And once I find that, I would just kind of look on that slide to figure out which one or what's the way that it would want.
Don't touch that dial. There's more Jeff Rubin Show right after this. This week's episode is also brought to you by Blue Apron. Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. If you're like me and you love eating good food, but you get to the grocery store and you've got no idea what to do, Blue Apron is the service for you. Their ingredients are sourced sustainably, they are delicious, it is easy, and for less than $10 per person per meal, it arrives at your door fresh. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Rubin. You will love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. So do not wait. That is blueapron.com/Rubin. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. I've been using word processors and office software my whole life. I feel like I'm pretty good at it. Do you think I could get through this? And I doubt I'd be the fastest at it. Like, certainly I'd need a few times for a world record competitive score or anything like that. But would I know, or could I, as someone who's just reasonably competent with computers, figure out how to do all this?
It really depends on the individual person. I think when it starts to get more challenging is like in Word or PowerPoint, when you start to get onto the developer tab, or when you start to do things with macros, or you go into like office settings, maybe like change some properties, document properties or presentation properties. In Word, maybe do like a mail merge or create custom like citations on the references tab.
Yeah, I don't know any of these words you're saying right now.
Things like that. Yeah, it's like a mail merge, it's like a way, like if you're sending acceptance letters to students, you could just have it like with like brackets, dear insert name here, and then you could have a list of all the names and have it just quickly fill them all in.
Oh, I didn't know my Word could do that. Maybe I need to go get certified. How long have they been doing this competition? When did someone have the idea to like turn this into a big gala?
Let's see. I'm not really sure. I think that the national competition started within, I think, like the last 5 years or so, but the world's competition, I feel like that one's been going on like a little bit more than 15 years. It's been a long time.
So this is an established thing. I'm looking at the website, and it seems like there is competitions for Word 2016 and Word 2013, and PowerPoint 2016 and PowerPoint 2013. You won, I believe, PowerPoint 2013. Is that right?
Yes, last year. This year is actually the first year that they're offering the 2016 exams because in the competition. In previous years, like the last 2 years when I competed, it was the 2010 and 2013.
I've seen the software over the years. Are there like considerable differences if you're good at PowerPoint 2013? Presumably you're good at PowerPoint 2016 too, right? Like they might have moved some of the buttons around, but surely the fundamentals remain the same.
Yeah, the fundamentals are the same. There are new features introduced over time. Like one of my favorite new features in PowerPoint 2016 is a feature called Morph, and it's only available to Office 365 subscribers, but it's if you duplicate a slide and move things around on the second slide, it's a transition where it will automatically seamlessly kind of resize and move those items so they move on the second slide.
That's cool. What are some of your other favorite Microsoft Office features that those of us that have been using this software the same way since we were 10 years old or whatever, what are some of those other things that have come up recently that we might not know about?
Well, for now, I'll just focus on PowerPoint. I can always tell you more.
I asked you to sell me I just turned you into a Microsoft Office salesman for a minute. Maybe that's what we're both doing this entire time. But specifically right now, I really want you to what's some of the cool new Office stuff that I might not be aware of?
I'll focus right for the moment on PowerPoint, just because that's what I most recently competed in, and that's what I'm the world champion for. One thing that I'd say with PowerPoint that I think is an incredibly useful tool that not many people use are the built-in themes. You know how there are different themes that you can apply to a presentation? Such as, like, let's say instead of a blank white presentation, or a solid color, I could have it with like a wood grain and a different type of look for each of the different types of slides. And I can also then go into Slide Master, which is a more advanced feature, and kind of edit and play around with that theme. Like, for example, if I wanted it to have, like, I like using this example, it's a very good example, a logo in one corner, I could have it appear consistent in the exact same location for every slide without having to resize it.
Stuff you've always wanted it to do, but now I guess it's finally doing.
And I just think with animations, if you spend a little bit of time with them using like the animation pane, you can dig down and actually create something custom. Like one thing that I've created before is it's almost like a stop motion animation project within PowerPoint. It's like those old books where, you know, if you kind of like quickly go through them in the corner of the page, there'll be like a horse running or something.
Like an Animorph. I actually never read an Animorph book. Basically, all I know about them is they have flip books in the corner.
Okay, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah. I guess you kind of answered this already, but practice, training. I guess there's software that trains you and helps you study. Did you have to? I mean, were you lifting weights to get ready here? Were you training with the software to prepare for the competition?
Yeah, only told you so far about the actual state level competition. But once I got that invitation to go to nationals, I started doing a ton of preparations. I used services like Gmetrics, which is just a training software that gives you different questions you haven't already seen and memorized before, because you pretty much had to memorize the entire test to qualify for nationals. But and I also used things like I have some review books like from Pearson. I just went through different projects. I pretty much did anything I possibly could to just prepare as much as I was able.
How many hours a week, a day were you practicing, and how long was it between qualifying and the competition?
With that, each year has been different when the time between, but typically I started prepping towards the end of the school year like beginning of June, but I actually was doing a little bit of preparation, really a little bit earlier, sometimes in May, sometimes earlier, sometimes April. It depends on the year, because I've done this I tried 2 years in a row I've competed. But I'd say I spend, at least once school lets out, an hour to 2, maybe more, a day on weekdays doing different review activities to prepare.
Getting ready. So where was the big competition when you won it? I want to hear about game day itself, the day of the Super Bowl. Where was it?
Sure, I'll skip to Worlds. I know Nationals I can tell you in a couple minutes. But Worlds was held, the most recent year, it was held in Orlando, Florida, right near Disney Springs. And then the year before, it was held at the Gaylord Texan Resort in Grapevine, which is right outside of Dallas, Texas, which was an incredible hotel, by the way.
I mean, it must be pretty crazy being a high school student and going, flying to a nice, fancy hotel to compete in, as an individual in a national, and then a world competition. Were you nervous about it? Were you just trying to enjoy it? What was going through your mind as you're getting on that plane to fly to Dallas?
When I was flying there, I was definitely each of the years, because I was very nervous, of course, but I was also excited because it's such an amazing experience just to kind of be able to be a part of that and to interact and just kind of, I knew, especially the second year when I knew more what it was about and how it would work there, I was just excited because it's so much fun. And it's one of those things where I think you got to do it the first time to learn what it's about, and then the second time you can actually enjoy it. What did you learn the first year that helped you enjoy it the second year? I just kind of more learned the format of the test and really the way it was structured. One thing that I also learned the first year is at the Worlds competition, even when you're competing against someone else, it's not that tense, ultra competitive, cutthroat atmosphere. Everyone is so friendly with each other because there are people from roughly 50 different countries around.
Wow.
Yeah, around the world.
How many people are in this competition, and how many Americans?
Well, there were actually over 1 million exams entered in the most recent year to the competition, and then from those they take, I think it's a little bit over 100 maybe to the U.S. national competition, but of course I don't know exactly how many are in the U.S. that are taken. From nationals, they pick the top person in each application, totaling 6 people, to go to the World competition. At the World competition, there are only the 6 U.S. team members, and then there are, I think, a total of 150 students there.
So you're really among the elites at PowerPoint. You're one of the 6. You're one of the 6 best in America.
Well, those 6 actually.
Oh, they were in other events.
Yeah, so each person's in their own application. So
oh my God, you guys are you're like the X-Men altogether. Maybe the Power Rangers would be more appropriate, but you got everyone's bringing their own skill to the table.
Yeah, and everyone's of course so friendly to each other. And we're like a team, but we're not actually working as a team. We're just that team atmosphere. We have the support of a team, but we don't rely on each other.
Did you have a chance to talk to people from other countries, students from other countries who were competing in this?
Yes, I definitely did. Each of the years, I actually spoke to some kids from South Africa. I actually texted with a girl named Bella from South Africa that I met there, and I met someone named Natalia. I've met a ton of different kids there from different countries over the years, and it's kind of funny. I recognized some of the people the second year that had come from another country where they have a different format of competition that I had seen the previous year.
Does everyone take the test in their own language, or does everyone have to do it in English?
That's actually really interesting. Not everyone does it in English. They offer other languages, but it's more limited. One unique thing with the World competition that you may not even think about is when everyone gets there, how they have to have everyone check their keyboards to make sure it's the exact configuration for their area and what they're comfortable with, because there are slight variations. Like, you may or may not know the difference between like two different languages that are so similar looking.
You have to use their keyboard. You can't bring your own gear.
That is it.
Like, I feel like competitive gamers bring their own mice and stuff.
They do not allow that just because they wouldn't want any kind of advantage or disadvantage, because one reason being people coming from other countries, the way it would work, and also you don't want to have something that could already have something programmed on it.
Yeah, I was getting to that. Is there any concern about cheating?
I would say no to that. I mean, they're definitely very careful because they have a testing lab where they have their Certiport employees monitoring the area. It's very well organized in that way, and it's kept very secure. But there's not really a concern with cheating because it would be very obvious if you tried to either have a flash drive or something to plug in, and they don't have full connection to the internet. They have, basic, but not something where you would just be able to do free web browsing to download stuff. So there's not really a way that someone could cheat unless they just found like a hole, but you don't know what will be on the test when you get there. So you wouldn't know what to prepare for, to exactly what you would even have to do if someone wanted to cheat.
I wonder if there is an advantage, if there is a language with which you have an advantage taking the exam, just because English has less characters than some other languages, or maybe there's other languages that are simple. I perceive English to be simple because I can speak it, and I perceive other languages to be more complicated just because they seem that way to my dumb American brain. But I just wonder, like, if it's apples to apples taking the test in Japanese versus English. Do you have any idea?
I would say it is pretty much the equivalent because you really don't actually have to enter that much text. So it's primarily the on-screen layout. And if you want to have to type in like one or two minor things. So it's not really that big of a difference. Most of the items you can import, like that's a feature that I like in PowerPoint. You can reuse slides or you can import from a text outline. So you're not actually typing much.
Don't touch that dial. There's more Jeff Rubin Show right after this.
Additional sponsors for this week's Jeff Rubin Show include Squarespace. If you've got a business, a podcast, a video series, a portfolio, or basically anything, you should probably have a website. And the easiest way to make a professional website is with Squarespace. There's never anything to install or patch or upgrade, so you can focus on the thing it is you actually want to be doing instead of the HTML or the CSS or JavaScript or whatever it is that they make websites out of these days. Squarespace is used by a wide range of people and businesses. I'm talking about musicians, designers, artists, restaurants, podcasters. There's basically nobody who couldn't use Squarespace. Put my theory to the test. Start your free trial today at squarespace.com and enter offer code Jeff Rubin to get 10% off your first purchase. That is squarespace.com, offer code Jeff Rubin. Once you're in Dallas or wherever the competition is that year,
the most recent one was Orlando. Yeah.
Sorry, but once you're wherever, what do you? How much PowerPoint are you actually doing, or how much competing is there? Is there just one round? Is it several rounds and you get your best score? Or is there you basically get one run at it?
It's pretty much one run because let me say it with Nationals first, and then I'll tell you with Worlds really quickly if that's okay with you.
Please, yes.
At Nationals, they divide all of the students into like a few different test groups, and you have one assigned test group when you go into the room and you recreate a custom either document, presentation, Excel workbook, something from scratch within a limited amount of time, 50 minutes, and submit that. That is graded by Certiport employees, and that is the only thing that actually determines how you performed and whether or not you will place first in the country and are able to move on to the world competition. So when you go to the world competition, once again, they break you up into different test groups. There's more of them, and they do things a little bit differently there, but in general, it's the same concept. They take everyone into the testing lab, and they have them compete for 50 minutes at most, and they then get the scores. They see who did the best, and if there's a tie, then they use time, who did it fastest or in the least amount of time. And then that's really it. They do some other fun activities after that, but they already have everything they need to know who won.
What's the moment when you find out you won? Is it Like, is do they reveal at the end at a gala? Do they announce the winners, or is it you put your hands down from the keyboard, they run their computations, and then they announce a winner, or something in between?
I'd say it's definitely most like the first.
So you didn't know
example.
until like a long time. You finished the competition, and then you went about your day, and then only much later did you find out that you actually had won. Is that right?
Yeah. Like at Worlds, I think the most recent year in Orlando, what it was we tested one day, and then the rest of the day they kind of had other little activities. They had a student lounge. They had some people from Microsoft there that you could talk to. You could ask questions. They had. Did
you do that?
Yeah, I definitely.
What did you ask them?
I just kind of talked to them, like learned a little bit about them, and they kind of learned about me. I recognized one person from the previous year from Microsoft. They had a focus group one year, so I think that day is kind of all about the testing, but then they have other fun things you can do just kind of to relax before or after testing, depending on when your testing time is. So then the next day is what they like to do as like a fun day at Worlds, where they do an activity like in Orlando, they went to the Magic Kingdom, Disney's Magic Kingdom, as a group.
You don't go to Orlando and not go to Disney World. I mean, come on.
I know. I love Disney anyway.
Totally, of course. We got to stay on focus, or we could talk about Disney for the rest of the time. But
that's a good
Disney
point.
World's the best, obviously.
Yeah. So after that day, kind of fun there, the next day. So that means not the day after, but 2 days after, when we tested, they had an award ceremony, and at that award ceremony, everyone's like anxiously waiting to hear what happens or who won or how everyone placed, and that's where you find out if you won.
Did you have a good feeling going into it, or did you think there was a realistic chance you could win, or were you totally blindsided?
I definitely knew there was a realistic chance that I could win, but I was extremely nervous. My mom, who was nearby at the award ceremony, described me as looking like I was about to throw up right between when they announced second place and when they announced first place. So I was really nervous. I knew I knew what I was doing, like as in I did well. But I had no idea if someone else did a little bit better.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people on this show who compete in things that most people would not think of as competitive, or they take it to another level. And it's always interesting, like there's two ways of doing it. And there's one that's sort of like a world record type thing, and one that jumps to mind is the paper airplane champion we spoke with, who found something ridiculous, worked at it, and has all the time to perfect it and work on it and to nail the world record paper airplane throw. He's got once he set his mind to it, it's a matter of doing it over and over again. But then there's another type of person, and also another good one would be the Man vs. Snake interview we did just a few months ago. Those guys who were working on the high score for this, or they made a documentary about the guy who was working on a high score for the game Nibbler, and it's like he, whenever he wanted to, would just put on the camera and record him doing it. There's more to it than that, but the point is he could just do it at his leisure and could do it as much as he wanted. The other type, which is I think what you are, we talked to a while ago, someone who did competitive Tetris, and competitive Tetris is not person versus person. You just have to get the highest score, but you got to show up and you got to do it that day. You got to you can't just send in a tape of it. You got to get it. It's like figure skating. You got to show up and perform at the show and get your high score there. And I always think that is interesting, or that piece of it is interesting to me, because there's this pressure to perform that you're under, that I imagine for a lot of these things is as difficult. I mean, dealing with the pressure of like, this is it, I've been working an hour or two a day, and I've got, right now, I've got to nail it. To me, it seems like dealing with that pressure is probably as difficult as learning anything about Microsoft PowerPoint. So I guess my question, this is a long-winded question, is what did you do on game day, or what was going through your head as you were taking it? Did you do anything to sort of deal with that and take that head on, or did you just put it out of your mind, or what did
almost
that
like
affect you at all?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely was stressed in the morning, but then I kind of just take a couple minutes, relax, calm down, do a tiny bit of review, almost not because I need the review, but just something to do so I'm not like almost like pacing practically.
Right.
But then I also talked to my coach, who was my teacher the previous year,
Wait,
And
you got a PowerPoint or Microsoft Office coach?
she was my teacher. Miss Retkin was my teacher the year before for the competition, and she had left, but we just kind of keep in touch. So I talked to her and got, a little bit of advice.
What was the advice she gave you?
More like just general, ways, kind of that become, stuff like that. More the general versus specific on the application. More just the how to calm down and be prepared in, that you'll do great sort of thing.
And then when you're actually taking the exam, were you at all nervous, or did you find it hard to focus, that this was the thing you had prepared for, or were you just having fun and enjoying it and present?
I was definitely able to focus. I have a hyper focus when I love something, so I can get really involved and I can stay focused for a long amount of time, sometimes hours, on any particular topic, as long as it's something that interests me. In this case, Microsoft Office and these competitions, the Microsoft Office Specialist World Championship is one of those interests that I can kind of, once I get into it and get past the initial being very nervous and realizing, this is your only shot sort of thing, I can focus and I can perform.
Was there anything about that day's competition, either the Worlds where you won PowerPoint or the one where you were a runner-up in Word, was there anything about the competition, the challenges you were given that day that threw you or were tricky or were interesting or were things you didn't anticipate?
There's two things, one from each year. I'll start with this most recent year in PowerPoint. I like to kind of plan things ahead, have a schedule, kind of know how the day will work, and I don't really like change that much. But one thing that happened this time was something happened with the computers in the testing lab with changing the languages. So it actually got behind by like an hour and a half. So we had to wait a long time. And of course, when you're really nervous, just kind of standing around waiting.
You're psyched up and ready to go.
Yeah. So that was definitely a challenge.
If you edit, undo something, is it oh no, the whole thing's over?
No, it's the final copy that's graded.
I see. But if you're edit undoing, you're burning time.
Yeah, that's something. Pretty much be careful to start, but also make sure it's accurate. So if there's a mistake, definitely fix it.
Hey, here's a question. What do you get for winning?
Oh, the most recent year when I competed in PowerPoint 2013, in addition to getting first the nice recognition and just the, kind of amazing excitement, I get it's not actual gold, but, a gold medal and a trophy. And then also I got an Xbox One console and $7,500 US.
Did you get anything for being a runner-up the year you were a runner-up?
Yes, that year I got, this is kind of funny, I got the Beats headphones that I'm actually wearing right now. And then I also got an Xbox 360 console, and I got $2,500 US.
Okay. So this is, you're a high school student. That's not so bad.
Yeah, it was really nice. I was actually, surprisingly and shockingly, a little disappointed when I placed second in the world because, you kind of have this motivation that you want to do the best or you want to be the best. So I was actually a little disappointed, and, in retrospect, I understand that's great. But I was definitely so excited this most recent year when I placed first.
And it sounds like just the tone, the vibe I'm getting from you is, are you, maybe I'm not. Maybe I shouldn't make any assumptions. Are you going to compete again?
Yes, definitely.
All right, so my instincts were correct. So Are you looking at Excel?
Excel this year.
Man, Excel, what's the most difficult to play sport? Maybe hockey, because you got to ice skate, which is already a sport, and then do something else on top of it? I don't know. Excel seems like the trickiest one. I feel reasonably confident I could, again, not in the quickest amount of time, basically do the Word and PowerPoint ones. I might have to Google a feature or something, but I'm extremely confident I could get it and do it. This is not me bragging, just from years of being around computers. Excel, I doubt it. Excel seems legitimately complicated. And it's got some really, it's got some really advanced mathy features, right? A lot different than Word. How are you approaching your Excel training?
Well, I've actually received an invite to nationals in Excel because they changed it more recently, so now they have 2 qualifying periods at the state level. So I qualified in the fall, meaning I got an invitation to go to nationals already, but I am kind of just going to be doing as much review as I can. There are so many features in Excel. It's more feature. I feel like there's almost more features than the other applications.
I would think so. I mean, yeah, I would think so.
And even if you look at all the functions in Excel, just to kind of know what they all do, there's, I'm sure, hundreds of them.
Yeah, Excel also seems like you gotta, I don't know what the competition's like. There's some writing formulas in Excel, which doesn't really come up in PowerPoint. Mm-hmm. That I imagine is a pretty decent part of competitive Microsoft Excel.
I feel like that would be definitely part of it. Of course, this is more my estimating because I don't know exactly what will be on it.
Right. But you're going to be there and you're going to compete.
I'll be at nationals. I really hope I can get to Worlds again.
And you are currently a high school student, is that right?
Yep, I'm a senior at Green Hope High School.
How old are you?
I'm 17 years old.
I believe, I'd have to look at the archives, but I believe nearly 200 episodes deep, you are the youngest Jeff Rubin Show guest. And you've carried yourself very well, and you're an impressive person, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But you got to be, so you're 17, you're in high school, I'm assuming you're applying to college?
Yes, I actually just received acceptance letters both from UNC Chapel Hill and NC State University's College of Engineering.
Ooh, congratulations. There's just no way you're not putting on your college application Microsoft PowerPoint World Champion. That is maybe the single best thing I've ever heard of to put on a college application.
That was definitely on the application.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're a great student and all these other things, but like what an interesting, like on-point thing. Like, I'm literally the world champion at software that students need and use. I feel like
and businesses even use.
Right. So, what'd you say? Chapel Hill and
NC State, which is North Carolina State University, and then that's their engineering program, which they divide theirs into colleges.
Leaning one way or the other?
I'm thinking the College of Engineering at NC State in computer science and maybe environmental engineering as well, because that's also an interest of mine.
Okay, so what would that entail?
Just kind of like, like newer energy sources and just kind of a way to become, just pretty much ways to help the environment and just, it's kind of hard to say for sure, but it's just an interest of mine in general. Computer science, you know what that is, but with environmental engineering, I'm thinking like working with creating new ways, alternative energy sources, that sort of thing. That's an interest of mine. So I'm thinking kind of bring the two together because you always need technology for the new advancements.
That's right. The $7,500 you won, is that a scholarship or do they give you cold hard cash?
It's technically called a scholarship, but they do give it to us in a check. Yeah, so as you said, cold hard cash. So, but yeah, so I get that in cash. And I'm actually donating some of it to a charity that actually a couple different charities. I'm thinking like a World Wildlife and maybe like an archive, like the Internet Archive.
Oh yeah, they've been. Jason Scott from the Internet Archive was on this podcast. I think that's incredible. By the way, I think a lot of 17-year-olds who won $7,500 would not be thinking about which charities they could donate some of it to. So I think that is very commendable, and I think those are great charities.
Thanks. Yeah, and I'll definitely keep some of it, but I think
no. Yeah, I think that's allowed. That's allowed.
Yeah, but I'll donate some of it. I think it's kind of a, buy something I'd like, donate some of it, save some. I think that's the best option.
Is there anything we didn't cover? Is there anything else we should know about the Microsoft Office World Championship?
Here's what I would say as a whole. It's just a very different atmosphere and experience than you would expect. When you're there, it's such an incredible experience. I love how everyone's just so nice to each other, and even when you're competing directly against each other. Like, was talking 2 years ago to someone, and they were competing against me in Word 2010, and she actually placed third there. So we were right, but we were both excited for each other. So it's just a different feel than you'd expect. It's not the cutthroat aspect. It's really something I would just recommend, people try to get involved with. It's just an incredible experience.
I would love to watch it. Can you watch it anywhere? Like, I would really like to see you and your peers work.
Due to confidentiality, you cannot watch us test directly, but one thing you can do is you can watch the award ceremony, and you can watch that even live when it's going on. And you can also, they have some news roundups and some like little clips of people working, so you can see just bits and pieces on Certiport's YouTube page, if you'd want to take a look at that.
Do you have any thoughts? It's great that there's this community and that you're meeting the other competitors and you're hanging out, but I was a little surprised to see that you were the only American who took home a gold last year, not because we're the best, but because, we made Microsoft Office. It's from here. You think we'd have some homegrown advantage, like we're good at basketball, because basketball's from here. Do you have any thoughts on like why the competition seems to have been so dominated by the international scene?
I really feel like there's two aspects of it. One is Microsoft Office is now global. Really, anywhere around the world, if you're talking to people, pretty much anyone will know what Microsoft Office is and at least the very basics of how it works. Really, if you think about that, that's the one main piece. But then also, a lot of the other countries, especially those with a different type of government system, are a little bit more controlling over what people do, and also they may require more practice, or they may, in that sense, it may be more in that sense, like they spend a ton of time on these people. They may work directly with them or train them for it in a different way. I feel like it varies as well based on, a kid's motivation and in general, like how much support they have.
It's like you said, everyone uses Microsoft Office around the world. Do you have any tips you could provide for people who use Microsoft Office? Maybe not at a competitive level. Maybe they're just using it in their day-to-day life. Is there anything you would tell them that might make their life easier?
Here's what I'd say. In Word, I'll say one for each. I think that's a fair way.
Yeah, please.
But in Word, I would say one feature that no one really seems to use, or at least most people forget is there, is the custom styles. So let's say you always format your title the same way, or you always format in styles and templates. If you always format your title or always the start of your document in the same way, so you could format it one time and then either create a custom style and save that, so you can just select the text and click it every time you want to use it, or you could save it as a template and then it automatically will open with those things already how you want them. That's one feature just to improve your workflow and make things a little bit easier for you.
What about PowerPoint?
In PowerPoint, I would say don't try to over-clutter the slides or just throw animations in just because or to be crazy. That kind of makes things look a little bit too busy. In there, I'd say kind of get everything the way you like. And if you're a business in that way, I'd say create kind of a custom theme for your business with maybe like a bottom bar or at the top something with, like something like if you want to have it say not to copy it and then have your logo and like the date it's created and the date you're showing it. Create all of that to start and then save that as a custom theme. Have your company color scheme, or if you're just doing something like a presentation for a school presentation, make it fit for the presentation. I know that I said that too many times.
That's not really a technical tip. That's just an aesthetic tip, but a good one.
Yeah, I think that's in PowerPoint, that's a major thing. But here's one technical tip that I'll give. I think both are important. One technical thing is if you want to use the same slide many times in different presentations, you can click the drop down near New Slide in PowerPoint and then click Reuse Slides and open the other presentation and quickly pull it into yours.
And what about Excel?
That's a little bit harder for me to say a definite because I still have to do more practice with it. One feature that I like in Excel is being able to use the filters, such as if you have a lot of data in an Excel sheet, such as something like if I was to download, sales from a business, like every time they've made a sale within a month, or let's say I'm working on, like something like global impact or global like page views, something like that. You could create different count if functions to like ask questions of your data, or you can use filters where just click the drop down, the little arrow once you turn them on next to the heading, and you can just check what boxes you want, or you can have it sort things. that one I'm not as strong in yet. I'm working on it still.
Well, Ryan, I feel like I learned about a whole side of Microsoft Office I did not know about today, and also I legitimately want to root for you in the upcoming Office Championships. You are by far my favorite. You are by far the person I am rooting for in Microsoft Office Championships to come. How can we follow you, know how you're doing, and all those things?
Well, first, thank you. If you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter at Ryan Catalfu, so RyanCatalfu. And if you really have any interest in learning more about this competition, you can go to moschampionship.com and learn a little bit more about it.
Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show. This was so fun. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, thanks for having me.
That's it for this week's episode of the Jeff Rubin Show. If you'd like to hang out with me a little bit more, I just appeared on another podcast that I would recommend to you. That podcast is Robot Congress, which is hosted by Ryan Morrison, a.k.a. the video game attorney, who appeared on this podcast maybe 10 or 20 episodes ago. And he has his own podcast now where they discuss video games and video game law, and I was thrilled to appear on it. That is called Robot Congress. It is on the HeadGum Network. You can find it if you are so inclined, and I'm on this week's episode, so go check that out. Otherwise, if you're just stuck on the Jeff Rubin Show, I can't blame you, but you are going to have to wait 2 weeks for the next episode. I'll let you know as soon as it's up. If you follow me on Facebook, on Twitter, on, the other stuff, you can go to jeffrubin.com, hear every episode of the show for free, suggest future guests for future episodes, and that's it. I'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks, but for now, bye.
That was a HeadGum podcast.